Today we will discuss about this two theorem, so Pappus-Cardenas theorem. So actually it has theorem 1 and theorem 2. There are two theorems. It is purely related to how to identify the surface area or volume of a body, right? Which is under revolution. So when I say it is under revolution, it is like if I consider a right angle triangle, if you revolve, you will get a cone, right? Similarly, a semicircle, if you revolve, you will get a sphere. A rectangle, if you revolve, you will get a cylinder, something related to that. Okay, so it should have an axis, and based on that axis, if you revolve it, you will get a particular shape. Okay, so we are going to discuss how to identify area or volume for that particular revolution of surfaces. Okay, so theorem one says that if the area, if you want to identify the area of revolution, right, area of surface of revolution, then it is nothing but the product of the length of the generating curve, right, and the distance traveled with respect to the centroid. So if I identify what is the centroidal location for a particular line, whatever line, right? So the length of the line into the centroid, right? So that will, so the distance traveled by the centroid, that will give you what is the surface, what is the area of the surface, right? So the second theorem, it is to identify the volume, right? It is to identify the volume. So it is the product of generating area. So previously it is product of generating curve. Now it is product of generating area and the distance traveled by the center of the area. Previously, it is distance traveled by the center of the line, whatever it is. Now it is center of the area. So both are same. Only difference is one dealing with only line, other one dealing with only area, right? So these are the two theorems. So whenever they ask you in a statement, you have to write this statement along with a formula. So next slide, I will show you what is the formula with respect to that, right? So theorem one. So let me consider you have a sphere or a line like this, AB line. So what happens if you revolve this, you will get a sphere, right? Get on the other side also something like this, you will get a sphere, right? So similarly, if you revolve this, you will get a cone, right? If you revolve this, you will get a torus, right? Something like that. Okay. So all these things, it is the area of the surface of revolution. It is nothing but 2 pi. 2 pi is, it is rotating for 360-degree, right? Into the product of the centroid. The product of the centroid and its length. So this is the length of the line and this is the centroid of the line. Right? It is the length of the line. So for example, if this is my curve, right? The length of the curve is L, right? And this L is revolving. So when it is revolving, you what you will get? You will get some shape like this. So a shape like this, something like this, right? So you can able to see here, right? So you'll get a different shape. So to identify what is the area of surface, it is 2 pi because it is rotating for 360-degree into centroidal distance. So from the point to the central axis, which axis is rotating, right? Into length. What is the length of the line, right? So this is my theorem one, right? So when you go for theorem two, when I go for theorem two, so you have something curved area. You can able to see this is my area. Similarly, it's also an area, right? Previously, it's just a line. Now it is an area, right? So of course, so it is purely a pure volume. So whatever you revolve it, you will get a volume. Previously, you will get only the surface area, right? So now you will get a volume. So here also the formula is similar to that. It is 2 pi into y bar into a, right? So previously it is L. Instead of L, now it is area. Y bar is same, centroidal distance, right? If you multiply with length, you will get surface area. If you multiply with area, you will get volume, right? So this is what it indicates your theorem 2, right? If I want volume, It is 2 pi into centroid product of the centroidal distance into its area. Right? So hope you will have a little bit difficulty in understanding it. Let me show an example. Okay, let me consider here. So if I want to identify what is the surface area of my cylinder, right? So I have to consider the line. You know that the length of the line. So the centroidal location of this line is R, and the length of the line is H. Right? The length of the line is H, and with respect to the axis which is revolving, it is R. Right? The centroidal location is R. So according to the formula, Pappas-Gillies theorem 1, if you want to identify surface area, it is 2 pi into y bar into L. Right? So what is my y bar here? So y bar is nothing but R, and my L is nothing but H. In this case, length of my line. So which means my area is 2 pi R into H. Right? So surface area of my cylinder. Right? So this is what your theorem 1 states. Right? Similarly, if I want volume of the cylinder, right, I have to consider this entire area of that particular rectangle. You have to consider as a rectangle. Previously it's a line, now it's a rectangle. Right? The center of the rectangle, right, the total is R, so the centroid will be R by 2. Right? The central location of my rectangle will be R by 2. So the volume formula is 2 pi y bar into A. Right? So 2 pi is came. What is your y bar now? What is your y bar now? Y bar is nothing but R by 2. Y bar is nothing but R by 2. A is area of this particular rectangle. So area is the base into height. So in this case, it is R into H. Right? So what we'll get? We'll get something like this. So 2 pi R by 2 into R into H. Right? So what we'll get? At the end, we'll get as pi R square H. So this is the volume of my cylinder. Okay, let me consider the other example. Let me consider an example of a sphere. Right? So make sure the central location of this curve is this 2 pi by 2r by pi. Right? Actually, you have to identify by using the formula. So y bar or x bar. Right? X bar is equal to sigma A, instead of A, it is L into x bar divided by sigma L, something like this. So using this formula, right? So because we are dealing with length, right? So if we deal with the area, we will put sigma A into x bar divided by sigma A. Similarly, here, this is the length. So for this length, if you identify, your x bar is 2r by pi, right? Only to solve it, let us consider this as a formula. It is 2r by 5. That is my centroidal location, right, of this particular curve. Okay. So according to this, my area is 2 pi into y bar into L. What is my y bar here? We identify. So my y bar is 2r by 5. What is my L? L is my length. So the red color, so that is what I want, that curve length. How to identify that curve length? You know that the entire circle, the circumference is 2 pi r. It is a semicircle. So what will be this length?
5 hours.
Yeah, very good. It is nothing but pi r. R you can also consider as a sector of a circle. So let me consider. This is my radius r. If I want what is this length, right? If I know what is this angle theta, it is r into theta, right? So here also r is the radius with respect to this. It is rotating for pi, 180 degree. So pi into r, right? That is nothing but r theta, right? So this is my area. So in that case, what I'll get? Area is 2 pi into 2r by pi into pi r, right? So the surface area of the sphere will be 4 pi r square, right? The surface area is 4 pi r square. Okay. Similarly, if I want volume, right, you have to consider as a area. So you know that we already discussed. So your x bar is 4r by 3 pi. 4r by 3 pi. That is the formula for the centroid allocation, right, of a particular area, right? So now area, you can identify, right, because pi r square by 2, that is my area. So if I want volume, volume is 2 pi y bar into a, right? And you know what is your y bar? Y bar is 4r by 3 pi, and your area is pi r square by 2, right? Which means my volume is 2 pi into 4r by 3 pi into pi r square by 2. When you solve it, you will get volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube. This is the volume of my sphere, right? So this is how you can use this two theorems. So theorem 1 and theorem 2, right? So Pappus-Cultinus theorem, right? So to identify the surface area or the volume of revolution. So for whenever you have a revolved object. Now we'll proceed with the next one, an important topic, which is area moment of inertia, right? So whenever I consider moment of inertia, there are different types actually. So mass moment of inertia and area moment of inertia. There are two categories, right? So when I consider mass moment of inertia, it deals with the acceleration which is generated when the object is revolving. Okay, we will discuss about that later. So today we will discuss about this area moment of inertia. What is this area moment of inertia? Right. So let me consider. So area moment of inertia is also called as a second moment of area. Right. So previously we discussed about first moment of area. What is first moment of area? It is nothing but centroid. Right. What you will get integral y dA. Right. So this is the centroid. Right. Now it is second moment of area, which means again I have to differentiate, multiply with the distance, which means integral y square dA, right? Which is integral y square dA. That is your moment of area, right? It is nothing but it is the resistance to bending. It gives what is the resistance to your bending, right? So for example, if I consider the scale, this is my scale. Let me keep my scale like this, right? So if I consider the cross section of my scale, cross section or right side view, you will get a scale like this. You will get some shape like this. If I apply force, if I apply a force, so can you able to bend this scale? It is very, very difficult, right? You can try it out. You can take a scale, keep it like this. My front view should be like this, so that my reading will be here. My scale reading, you can able to see like this, right? So this is how you can able to see. Now keep a scale like this. You try to bend your scale. It is not possible. You can't able to bend. You can't able to bend your scale, right? So because the moment of inertia for this is high, very high. High moment of inertia for this. Same scale I am keeping in top view. So this is my front view now. This is my front view. Top view, you can able to see my scale like this with the readings, right? So now, if I look at the right side view, you will get something like this. So now I am keeping my scale flat, right? I am keeping my scale flat. Now you apply the force. You can able to see that your scale is bending. Easily it will bend, right? You can able to see that it is easily bending, right? Which means your moment of inertia is low, right? Higher moment of inertia gives resistance to your bending, right? Higher moment of inertia will give resistance to your bending. So that is the main purpose of this moment of inertia, right? Actually, we call this as area moment of inertia, because whenever we call it as moment of inertia, they will always prefer mass moment of inertia, right? So which is different. But now what we are talking is area moment of inertia, right? So this is how which you can able to see that the higher the area moment of inertia, you will get higher resistance, right? Higher resistance for bending, right? So that is how whenever you can able to see these are the things you will be using in any columns in your buildings or whatever it is. So how to keep your column? That plays the major role. You should not keep your column like this. If you keep it like this, what happens? You have higher load, so your column will bend. Your building will get damaged. Right? You have to keep a column like this. Right? When you keep it like this, there is no proper. It has higher resistance to bending, so that there is no possibility of cracking it. Right? So it is very safe. Right? So the design should be in such a way that how to arrange your object, right? So that deals with this moment of inertia, right? So right. So now, if I consider, so how to identify this moment of inertia? If I consider any particular shape, right? I can able to get a small strip, which is dx and dy. So if I want to identify moment of inertia with respect to x-axis, it is y square dA, and with respect to y-axis, it is x square dA, right? So which I can write it like this. So if I want to identify moment of inertia with respect to x-axis, it is integral y square dA, right? It is nothing but second moment of area. So y into dA into y into dA. So into y. So which is y square dA, right? Any doubt on this?
No, sir.
Yeah. Right. So similarly, y is integral x square dA. We can use it like this. Next, polar moment of inertia. Right. So previously we discussed about area moment of inertia. It deals with whenever you have a force, a moment type of load, and a force. Whenever you have this type of loads, you will get this area moment of inertia. But if you have a continuous torque, right, something like this. So when you have an object which is rotating with respect to a point continuously, then the inertia what you are going to consider is polar moment of inertia. Right? The inertia what you are going to consider is polar moment of inertia. Example, if I consider you have a torque in a cylindrical shaft, continuously your shaft is rotating, right? In that case, so you have to consider polar moment of inertia, right? So let me consider. So we have an object here. So we have a dA, a strip here, which is rotating continuously with respect to this point O, right? So the distance with respect to O to this is R, but usually you will consider x-axis and y-axis. Let me consider this is my x location and this is my y location. So according to Pythagoras theorem, we know that R square. So we can identify. So of course, your R square is equal to x square plus y square. According to Pythagoras theorem, I can say that R square is equal to x square plus y square, right? So now what I do, I want to identify polar moment of inertia. It is nothing but integral R square dA, right? Previously we discussed integral y square dA, integral x square dA. Now we are discussing integral R square dA, right? So where R is the polar moment of inertia, which is rotating in terms of a radius, right? So what I can do, I can integrate it. So R square dA, I can write as integral s square plus y square dA, which means integral y square dA plus integral x square dA. So which is nothing but, so a polar moment of inertia is what? Ix plus Iy. So if I identify what is the moment of inertia with respect to x-axis and what is the moment of inertia with respect to y-axis, you add this two, that is polar moment of inertia, right? So this one, addition of two axes. So you can able to see that your R is in z-axis, the moment of inertia with respect to z-axis. So I can say that if I want moment of inertia with respect to z-axis, then it is nothing but addition of moment of inertia with respect to x-axis and addition of moment of inertia with respect to y-axis, right? So this we call it as perpendicular axis theorem. Perpendicular axis theorem. So it is a theorem related to moment of inertia, right? So the perpendicular axis theorem states that the moment of inertia with respect to z-axis is the summation of the moment of inertia with respect to x-axis and moment of inertia with respect to y-axis. I'm telling in the statement, right? So I will repeat it. The perpendicular axis theorem states that if I want moment of inertia with respect to z-axis is nothing but is the summation of the moment of inertia with respect to x-axis and the moment of inertia with respect to y-axis. Right? Addition of Ixx plus Iy. Right? Next theorem. So we have parallel axis theorem. Right? So parallel axis theorem. I have a statement. We will first discuss what you mean by that. Okay. So the thing is, your moment of inertia will change with respect to the location. Right? So for example, this is my area. You can able to see this is my shaded area. And if I consider this is my point C. For this point C, I will get one moment of inertia. Right? If I shift my point, for example, if I have a point here, which is Y. At this location, I have different moment of inertia. This is not equal. So IEC is not equal to IY. So if I want moment of inertia at any other location, for example, AA, IAA, right? The moment of inertia is different. Now also it is different. Okay, so it depends on the location. So wherever I shift my point, my moment of inertia also changes. Why? Because my distance is changing. So second moment, the distance is also changing. Right? So because of that, so to identify, in order to identify at different locations, what will be a moment of inertia, then for that we use this parallel axis theorem. Okay. So let me consider you have a DA strip. So the distance from DA strip to your AA, let me consider Y. Let me consider that I have what is the moment of inertia with respect to IBB. So at this point, C. Right? I know what is the distance, moment of inertia for this point. Okay, so I want what is the moment of inertia with respect to IAA. IAA dash. Okay, so if I want to identify that, right, what I do, let me identify what is my distance. Let me consider this is Y. So this is Y dash. Let me consider this as D. So I can write it like this. So integral Y square dA, I can write as integral Y dash plus D the whole square dA. Right? Because I'm shifting it. So you know that it is like A plus B the whole square. So what I'll get? You get A square plus 2AB plus B square, right? Same I'm writing here. So integral Y dash square dA plus 2D Y dash integral dA. So integral Y dash dA plus D square integral dA. Right? This is what I am getting as a term. Now, what is this integral Y square dA? It is moment of inertia with respect to the centroidal axis, B2 dash. Right? In the shape of a centroidal point, moment of inertia. That is integral Y dash square dA. Right? So what is this? Integral Y dash dA is the centroid of the centroidal axis. So integral Y dA into the centroidal location. Centroidal location, centroidal axis that is nothing but 0. So this is 0. Right? Because already it is at the center point. And the center point, there is no distance. There is no distance, so it is 0. So this is eliminated. Okay. Plus D square. what is integral dA? Integral dA is nothing but area, right? So I get a formula here. So I can write this. If I want I is equal to moment of inertia with respect to the centroidal axis, Ix. Moment of inertia with respect to the centroidal axis. This term is what I am showing here. Plus, what is this? Integral dA, area into d square. What is this d square? D square is distance from the centroidal axis to whatever the location I want. So that is my distance with respect to the centroidal axis to whatever the locations I want. Right? So this is my formula. Right? So the same thing, it is written in a statement. What is written? The moment of inertia of an area with respect to a given axis AA dash. We want what is the moment of inertia with respect to AA dash is equal to sum of moment of inertia of area with respect to the centroidal axis BB dash, centroidal axis BB dash, parallel to AA dash, and product of area and square of the distance between the two axes. And square of the distance between the two axes. Next, radius of gyration. So this is another term, radius of gyration. What is this radius of gyration? So இப்போ வந்து முன்னாடி வந்து we discuss about this moment of inertia, right? Moment of inertia வந்து பாத்தீங்கன்னா I told you at different points you have different moment of inertia. At different points you have different moment of inertia, right? So the radius of gyration also deals with the same concept, right? So what happens if there is a shift in your moment of inertia? Let me consider this area, right? So let me consider this entire shaded area is around 1000 mm square, right? For this 1000 mm square area, I know what is the moment of inertia with respect to the center point, centroidal point, right? So let me consider this moment of inertia, Ixc, moment of inertia to this centroidal point is around 5 into 10 power 4 mm power 4. This is just a reference. I'm writing it just for convenience, so to understand in a better way, right? So let me consider this is my moment of inertia. Now, what I'm going to do is, let me imagine I am having this area as a strip, as a rectangular shape, right? As a rectangular shape. Let me consider the area is same, 1000 mm square. Now my question is, for this rectangle, the centroidal location is here, which is Ixc. Will you get same 5 into 10 power 4? Will you get same 5 into 10 power 4?
No, sir.
No, very good. So you won't get. So you have different value here, right? This is not equal to 5 into 10 power 4, right? So you'll get some other value because the shape is changing. So instead of this shape, you have a different shape. It's a rectangle. The rectangle shape will have different moment of inertia formula, and everything is different. But if I want this same location, same value, right? So Ixc is equal to 5 into 10 power 4, right? It will be at a different location. For example, it is at this point. At point O, I am getting this Ixc as 5 into 10 power 4 mm power 4, right? So now the distance between the particular area and the related moment of inertia, same moment of inertia, that distance we call it as radius of gyration, right? So that distance we call it as radius of gyration. Okay, so அதே லொகேஷன்ல அதே மொமெண்ட் ஆஃப் இனர்ஷியா ஒரு ஷேப்போட ஒரு அதே மொமெண்ட் ஆஃப் இனர்ஷியா வேற இடத்துல ஷிஃப்ட் பண்ணாலும் அதே இருக்கணும், ரைட்டா? அப்போ வந்து அந்த மாதிரி இருந்ததுன்னா அதோட லொகேஷன், அதோட டிஸ்டன்ஸ், தட் ஒன் வி கால்ட் அஸ் ரேடியஸ் ஆஃப் gyration. Okay, so the formula for this is Ix is equal to k square into a. As I told you, second moment of area, k into a into k, right? So k square into a. So which means your radius of gyration is k is equal to root of Ix by a, right? So of course there are different radius of gyration. Radius of gyration for an area இது மாஸ்க்கு வந்து I by m னு வரும். So அது ஒரு different. Okay. So where we use this? This is mainly used in column, right? So not to identify what is the buckling. So ஒரு காலம் வந்து இருக்கு, கம்ப்ரசிவ் லோட் ஆக்ட் ஆகும்போது பெண்ட் ஆயிடும், ரைட்? அது பெண்ட் ஆகாம இருக்கிறதுக்கு வந்து மினிமம் ரேடியஸ் ஆஃப் கைரேஷன் இருக்கும், right? To avoid bending, you should have minimum radius of gyration, right? For that purpose, we use this, right? Mainly used in civil columns, right? Civil columns and struts, right? Struts, right? So in that case, we use this radius of gyration, right? So to identify minimum radius of gyration, we whenever you have minimum radius of gyration, which means the bending or buckling will be lesser, right? Bending and buckling will be lesser. Okay, now we will have a set of formula, right? So we derived a formula for centroids, so by integration, right? Similarly, you also have a formula to identify this moment of inertia for different shapes, right? You have such a formulas also to identify by integration. So let me consider, I always consider a vertical strip, right, instead of this one. So previously I shown something like this, right? You can able to see you have a horizontal strip, so you can able to see for this you should use one horizontal strip and one vertical strip, right? Sorry, this is vertical strip, you have to use vertical strip, and this one you have to consider horizontal strip. So it takes lots of time to solve a problem. So considering a strip like this, solving it, again considering a strip like this and solving it, right? So to avoid that problem, there is a set of formula here, which is applicable. So only considering the vertical strip, right? If I consider a vertical strip, so if I want to, what is my moment of inertia with respect to x-axis, it is 1/3 of y cube dx. It is 1/3 of y cube dx. And if I want, what is the moment of inertia with respect to y-axis, it is x square y into dx, right? So overall moment of inertia, I will get something like this. Ix will be equal to 1/3 of integral y cube dx. My limit is from whatever the location, so from 0 to whatever it is. If it is b, it will be also 0 to, right? I felt this is very convenient to solve any type of problem. So instead of changing your strip, when you change the strip, there will be a possibility of finding your y again and again, y and x again and again. So what is the relation with respect to the curve, right? So to avoid that, we use this, right? So this is the formula which is related to that. Okay, we will stop here. We will continue next class by deriving your moment of inertia. So we will derive it for rectangle, triangle, and parabolic shapes.